Hello, everyone. Welcome to Physics 61st meeting. Yes, we are on to our 61st meeting now. And today is the 6th of February, 2019. And we've got 16 people in our Zoom room in attendance live for this 61st Physics meeting. And welcome, everyone. Namaste. I'm going to share screen right now so we can have a look at the PowerPoint presentation I have for this meeting. So the meeting that we have here today is, it's a FESIG, means Free Energy Special Interest Group, 61st meeting. I am Crystal Gore, and I am the chair of this meeting, as I have founded FESIG and initiated it way back in 2.5 to 3 years ago now. The co-chair for the first session is Dr. Fres Frezel. He will be co-chairing with me for the first session. And the second session will be co-chaired by Pontus Hapscher. Pontus is in Sweden, Fres is in Portland, north of the west coast of America, the US. Well, if you don't know what physics is about, it's a Free Energy Special Interest Group. It's a platform where science meets spirituality. We have our objectives and our primary and secondary objectives that you could actually look up in our website. Our website is, you will see it once you got the YouTube channel, got into our YouTube channel, and you click on the videos, it will be there in the description. Otherwise, it is this truevisionofpeace.com/FESIG, FESIG.html. Okay, right. Now, we have a meeting once a month, but the one meeting that we have is separated into two sessions. One is of a person of science, and the other is person of spirituality. It's supposed to be like that at first, but today we've got someone who's got both. So we're going to make him speak a lot for the first session. And the second session, we're going to talk about, we're going to do a little bit of a Q&A with Fernando, and then we're going to talk about being on track with physics objective, that is to teach people how to make their free energy device. And wouldn't that be wonderful? So that is coming up, folks. So stay on with us. Don't go away. All right. So I have done a quick presentation of physics to the new members. And I can actually quickly go around the table to introduce everyone, but that's going to take time. And we're also excited to see what Fernando has to show and share with us. All right. So we have done the introduction prior to starting the recording of this meeting anyway. So here we are. We have Fernando, our speaker. Fernando Vossa speaks about his Vossahedran BioArchitecture, regenerative sacred geometry design for cellular regeneration and thriving beyond sustainability. The art and science of conscious creation, engines of mass creation, architecture of ascension. Wow, isn't that something? Okay, so the second session we'll have, this is the agenda of the meeting, by the way. The second session we have number one, Q&A with Fernando. If we hadn't finished the Q&A in the first session, we'll continue here. And number two, introducing physics' first free energy workshop and its steering committee. And the person who's behind it, of course, the alternative energy Gerard Marine motor generator inventor, Mr. Thomas Bowie. Sorry about that, no S behind your Bowie. Yeah, speaks about his device, giving us a sneak preview on the workshop he is open sourcing via FESIG. Now, and then number 6, we will, having finished these two sessions, then we are done with the 61st physics meeting. We will then adjourn to our next meeting, the 62nd physics meeting on the 6th of March. Please pen that down in your diary, folks. The speakers will be real, of course, we're going to get Thomas Bowie talk about his motor generator, which works with power, which does power a whole household or more. Depends on what you put into it. And then we will be calling another speaker who will be announced, okay, later. Please go to our website and check out the updates now and again, all right? So I am your host, Crystal Gore, and the FESIG team here, and James Rink is our Zoom room host. Thank you, James, for letting us have the Zoom room to use every month. And if you want to contact me, it's Crystal at truevisionofpeace.com. And the FESIG website is truevisionofpeace.com/FESIG, FESIG .html. Okay, and you get us. Right. So that's it for now. And I'm going to stop sharing and I will introduce Fernando properly. And then we'll have him taking over the microphone. Fernando Vossa is a BioFuturist TerraHealer Artivist. He's a planetary scientist, light body technologies, cosmic love, and wisdom. He has been designing technology experiences for over 18 years. Mr. Vossa's approach is to reach the psyche and heart of his audience using multidisciplinary techniques from industrial design, cognitive psychology, virtual reality, cinematography, architecture, graphic design, and fine art. I was really amazed when I went to his website and his Facebook to see his artwork. Gosh, it's so beautiful. It's comparable to the masters. Mr. Vossa's accomplishments include being part of leading-edge design teams for major brands such as Microsoft, Sony, US West, GE Aerospace, and most recently unfolding innovative installation concepts at the center of mass creation. He says, what does the sweet spot look like when the scientific process embraces spirituality? Hey, Fernando, you're talking our language here in FESIG. Fernando will speak about his Vossahedran, BioArchitecture, regenerative sacred geometry design for cellular regeneration and thriving beyond sustainability. Designing new homes with nature powered by free energy. An accomplished artist designer, he will also cover the art and science of conscious creation, engines of mass creation, architectural ascension, Vossahedron, regenerative architecture, live inside a crystal harmonized to rejuvenate your body, 30 and 60-degree angles to resonate with our crystalline nature of higher frequency light, creating a free energy healing home for transition to the fourth dimension. Quantum tunneling to 5D Earth, and free energy healing of everything. Wow, that is really a lot to cover, Fernando. So I wouldn't want to take too much of the time here, and I'll pass the microphone now immediately to Fernando. Fernando.
Thank you, Crystal, and gratitude to everyone who is here on this call and everybody who's listening and everybody who's going to be listening. So we are initiating telepathic projection now. My work is very multidisciplinary, and the idea is, how do we unite the sciences as one force, but in the spiritual quantum sense? So I'm going to share some imagery. This was presented at the Mars Anomaly Conference last year, and we are going to be upgrading a lot of the technology that we're sharing, where we have actual devices that are going to be on display. So I'm going to do a screen share now. And we're looking at the brand Vossahedron or Vossahedron. And this project came out of defining a new class of geometry that was abstracted from the flower of life. And this is like a seed to initiate a whole forest of the future. We are looking to return to the source. That moment of creation where we were in the womb, the cosmic womb, when all was one. We had all our needs taken care of. We were part of the cycle of life and the cycle of the language of the universe. What happened to this state? You know, the closest that we can imagine this is when we were in the womb inside our mother. This is the longing that we have. We will always feel a missing of this home. Everything in technology that we're building, our free energy devices should look and act and behave with the law of the womb, the beginning of source. This is our world right now. We are so tied into our distractions of the matrix, the cell phones, the branding, the jobs, and so forth, that we are in this bubble that excludes the womb, the source, the knowledge, everything that we are, our ancestors, nature. So this is my job. This is my passion and purpose on this planet, to bring back the unification of the womb, the source. I've been working on a conference concept called the Illuminated Human. And the two main themes are electric fire and liquid light. To me, free energy will be like rediscovering fire. And liquid light pertains to rejuvenation. So for my research and star knowledge, the two things that will liberate this planet is free energy and complete rejuvenation of our bodies. This is the language of life. I lived in Baha California for 4 years as part of my research and studied heavily the cactus there. And the first thing I noticed in looking at nature, because this is the practice of biomimicry, the imitation of nature. When we observe with our hearts and our brains together, when I see this barrel cactus, I'm looking at a technology. I'm looking at an antenna system that is finely tuned with fractal proportions. And it is a holographic platform, meaning this device, this thing that we're looking at from nature has its own magnetic fields. It has its own communication system, because there are no plants growing around a cactus. You notice they have this empty area around them. So I wanted to know more about this. How does this relate to my work to build a healing home? First, as an architect, I realized we are to create a new vocabulary in architecture. We want to bypass sustainability. It's too late for sustainability. We should have done that 100 years ago. At least 1,000 years ago, we should have been sustainable. To me, it's like Maslow's theory of hierarchy of needs, where we were taught that first we have to worry about our basic needs, like breathing and food and so forth. And then later you would get to higher order knowledge. And then later you might get to self-realization and actualization. What is being suggested here is that we begin with the highest spirituality in everything that we do. So this path defines 3 new platforms, because to me, regeneration has to do with the physical world, the mental, emotional world, and the spiritual connection to your truth, your soul. So whatever we build as technology, whether they're houses, electric generators, or medicine, has to have the kind of liquid mind, a scientist, a physicist, a healer, that is also an artist, that is also a visionary, that is emotionally heart-based. This is a lot to ask, because this is not taught at MIT or, Caltech, how to be a heart-centered healer of the universe. I have this idea that the true underserved population of this planet are the awakened, the beings that have come into self-realization. If corporations even got an inkling, an understanding of the awakened population of this planet, we'd be reinventing every single thing. So what is the mission now? Is to heal everything. That's it. If you work in space, if you work in product development, if you work in technology, the business plan should be about healing everything. And then we get into regeneration. So my project began, this latest one, in 2012, December 22nd. The emergency light went on inside of me. I am here to build technology for the next 1,000, if not the next 1,000,000 years. And it's called Haya, Healing Art Installation as a Home. It's a kind of container. The project is to design through art, not through science. This means we're going to be working with intelligent form, different shapes of things. We're going to work with water and the natural elements like electricity, magnetism, light, sound as living conscious entities that we are going to communicate. Food that heals our body, resonant energy, not just dirty electricity. BioArchitecture. This means we are building the shapes of life itself in architecture. And then the path to regeneration. Because existing systems don't have a trajectory. When we go to the most advanced science that we have on this planet, being taught in the matrix systems, there is no trajectory. Our cities have no direction. I look at this mass matrix with no goal other than just to consume and eat. And then we got to build our passion into our systems. If I was going to come up with a so-called LEED certification for architecture, I would start with these 7 principles. So the first project I said, I wanted to know which organizations around the world I wanted to align with, which research labs would be so in tune with this. And I found out they actually don't exist for you and I. They're not for mere mortals. You might find advanced technology in the secret space program. You might find advanced technology in breakaway societies, but not here on this planet just yet. It's sitting here in our DNA. So I invented a concept called the Center of Mass Creation. This would be the kind of organization that I would love to be part of. I took the best of what I've learned from healing and free energy and put them together. There's no separation for me between healing the body and generating electricity. If we are not talking in that sense, then we're behind. This project has 12 laboratories, 12 areas of focus. The energy, the healing, the cosmic awareness. And then I broke up what I considered the most common technologies between the healing modalities. And I'm including Chinese herbology, Ayurvedic medicine, Reiki, reflexology. I studied over a decade as much as I could about healing. So here are the common elements: light, water, sound, crystals. And then we get into structures. This is the way to create shapes from nature and bring them to technology industry. We need the ability to do rapid prototyping. How do we go from a thought to holding something in your hand and then putting it to play out in the world? Right now, current laboratories are what I call a big blocker, a C blocker to innovation. True innovation occurs when you're healing your life, your family, your home. You're connecting to Earth. So this is the platform. And the center is called the Event Horizon. This is the Systems Integration Laboratory where we can combine technologies. We want to play with light and see how it works with sound and crystals, magnetic fields, and then apply it to solve real world problems. I'm not interested in solving problems right now on the moon, off world. I need to do it right here first. Terraform the Earth first before we go to Mars. Fix society here first and be a peaceful, galactic, conscious humanity before we step foot off of our rock. That's what I'm saying. It's a suggestion. So this process that we learn about in the esoteric metaphysical world, I gave it a definition. I call it resonating life. How do we tune our bodies, our lives, to become a type of technology that has 7 layers to it? And these are no particular order, but roughly they are the levels of consciousness or also the levels of the chakras. So on the first one is the awakening stage. This is the root chakra, your connection to Earth. Then the activation stage where, okay, I'm awoke. Next, well, you got to activate your superpowers in your DNA, in your body, your communication to the elements I mentioned. Then you got to hone in your intention. What are you here to do? And then harmonize that intention with the intention of others. And then radiate and promote and publish that message, and then envision the future, and then expand the universe, and then unify it again and start over. I would create software operating systems that know how to do this. The reason we don't have advanced artificial intelligence that is conscious is because it does not understand this awakening process. I worked at Microsoft. I looked at what would be considered the most advanced systems in artificial intelligence, and they are all, I'm talking all of them are weaponized. We cannot do this anymore. So I started looking at areas in Mexico and in the United States where there would be great places to create eco cities. And just in this little region, in this map that you see, this particular parallel goes all the way around the earth. So New Mexico is on the 33rd parallel. I would like to find rural areas where we can begin eco cities, because I am convinced we cannot heal ourselves in our current cities. We can't do it. Create your own electricity in the middle of downtown LA and grow your own food and try to heal your body and try to break all the rules. There are so much infrastructure in place that keeps us from being sustainable. It might as well be illegal. My work is about frequency and vibration. Sound familiar? These shapes that you're looking at are different cymatic patterns that I looked at. And that little star flower of life that you see there, that's the first footprint of the shape that I came up with. So yes, I looked at frequencies of 432, 528, multiples of 3, 6, and 9, playing into the gigahertz, testing how do these frequencies transmute themselves alchemically through various mediums. I'm going to translate that. How do you go from solid matter to light to sound? What's coming in through our ears is exactly the same energy as coming in through our eyes. It's the same energy that our skin is interacting with. So that unification showed me that electricity wants to be our friend. It was here as you can call it an ascended master on earth that we have slaved and completely corrupted. Electricity should not be able to kill you. You put your tongue in one of these connectors in your wall, you can see how weaponized our electricity is. This alternating current's not helping us at all. When I looked at cactuses forensically, I was like studying an alien technology from the future, millions of years, if not billions of years. And to me, the future and the past is the same. When studying psychedelic cactus like San Pedro and peyote, the frequency of those changes dramatically. You're looking at a slice on one of these of a San Pedro cactus. You notice that they have a particular angle in their points, 60 degrees. You notice that there are 60 degrees pointing inwards and 90-degree angles pointing outwards. How is that for a magic process? The cactus is green. It has a fringe of green. You'll notice that if you slice through it, it starts out dark green and it works its way to almost white, but it never makes it to white. Then we notice that there are layers to this. The cactus has a shell, a hard little plastic shell, like you can peel it off. And then it has one density of green matter, and then the density changes toward the center. So I started looking at thousands and thousands of principles just from one plant. I could do an entire university course on one plant that would change the way we build spaceships, the way we build cities. So here we go. Here's some more examples of these studies. These plants talk to me. Since I've consumed them, my genetics are tuned to the San Pedro cactus. These are elders speaking to me because communication to the Pleiadian system, communication to the earth, Agarthan, inner earth, the Shambhala cities of light, all these beautiful esoteric language is real for me. I don't need an antenna radio to talk to my ancestors to the earth. I just need to talk to these guys. So the research kept going. I was looking at the fractality. Here's forensic photography, orthographic projections. We see technology here. All I see here are fields of energy in motion, fractality. How is a cactus breaking up heat and cold, light and dark? These plants have a source. You're looking at a crop circle from England that is the temple of energy, meaning energy itself attends church. Electricity, sound, and light has a spirituality where those energies are also seeking their God. That is not mentioned anywhere. How does electricity meditate? Does it have an alpha, beta, theta, delta frequency when electricity is in superconductive quantum state? Crop circles, after working with some of the top researchers in crop circles, we, like Patty Greer is one documentary specialist. Crop circles are a free energy technology that is natural intelligence, analog. Let me repeat that in a different way. If we don't get off of our artificial transhumanist agenda, we will never understand what you're looking at right now. Natural intelligence is infinite. Analog information and analog devices are infinite bandwidth. So here's some more examples. We notice the symmetry in these designs. We notice that it's an inherent flower of life abstraction. Beautiful, right? So one of my colleagues is Alasha Linov, who is a biofuturist also. He's here on tour in the US. He's from South Africa and Russia. And we're going to be joining forces to manifest eco cities here. This is one of his designs for a site like the gardens that is taken proportions from crop circles. Imagine having a community where the different huts or domes have a sine wave that flows through the property. If you notice on the outer rim of this image, there's a little blue river going back and forth around those little round huts. And in your garden, in the center, your vegetables, fruit, and all the different things that you grow have particular frequencies, use of water, nutrients, and sunlight that nature knows how to lay out, but we're just barely learning. How interesting is it that the Andromedan technology that came by way of Vishnu, Rama, Krishna, Shiva, and that bunch of cosmic pimps that came to Earth to bring technology and beer and cannabis and Ayurvedic healing and temples and free energy? Well, when we study these systems, this used to be heretic information, meaning yoga, aromatherapy, all of that. Go back 20 years and people would probably laugh at you. You know, even 50 years ago, it was banned in some places. Well, this is science. This is sacred geometry at some levels. We're looking at a fractal technology here, which is a heat sink for electronics. I think this device here is very small. It's only a couple of centimeters in diameter, but it dissipates heat much more efficiently than current heat sinks. You don't need a big block of metal with all these ridges. This is what I want to do with our communities, fractal communities. Because in designing the Vossahedron dome, I realized that we cannot centralize anything. Nature doesn't centralize the heat sources or the light or the sound or the water. If we're going to efficiently mitigate the heat in your house, we have to fractalize it, meaning work on the problem. It is not divide and conquer. It is spin-off algorithms. So the heat in your house should be fractalized like a cactus where no one part of the house carries the full load, and it's very fault tolerant. This is already being used in a variety of ways. Like this is a water filter with activated charcoal and copper, but look at this beautiful extrusion where the little pockets of charcoal go in, and the water has perfect fractality in this filter, not those cylindrical round filters. Now we're playing with liquid fire. So these are some more examples. This is a cymatic pattern of 432 hertz. This is what I wish to generate inside my structures. I would like you to go into your home and be able to have sound, energy, organ, life force, chi, prana, thought intention, heart palpitations, whatever energy you're working with, to resonate like an instrument. Your house should be as finely tuned as a Stradivarius. These are other, and by the way, these are just formed, for those who are not familiar with cymatics, with a speaker cone with a dish of water, and I have a light shining on it, and at the right angle, when you play frequencies, it vibrates and you can see the patterns. This is the very first extrusion of the 3D model of my Vossahedron dome. It is a grid of the flower of life, horizontal and vertical, and that 12-pointed footprint connects at the top where there's a second copy of that footprint in a very specific proportion. The flower of life gave me all this. What do you get right now with this shape? Let's just stop here for a second. If architecture or any engineering was to catch up to this, you get perfect fractality of heat and cold. The outer edges of this shape are the ones that capture the sun heat first, and the inner folds are the cool areas. So you have convection of heat going up the edges of this shape and then down in the folds. You have a sine wave going up and down, all the way around. And those of us who are scientists know as soon as you have that, you have energy. It's a free energy generator. This is what you're looking at. It's a healing device that talks to your DNA. This is a pyramid version of the same principle. So I'm showing that you can make a dome and a pyramid using this 12-sided shape. Well, notice that it has 6 major points and 6 minor points. We're going to talk about the importance of that. Here's my 3D model that I began with. I don't see a date on this, but we're talking about 2014, roughly, when I did this. By the way, have you guys ever seen architecture this beautiful? You know, I give myself props because in 2011, I was suicidal. I said the world does not want us. It doesn't want me. The universe doesn't care about sustainability. I was ready to check out. So what I do now is I praise everything that I did. When I didn't have any money to my name, when I was couch surfing, when I was doing these ideas, I was getting fired from projects. I have been fired from all the companies I've ever worked at. Microsoft, Sony, GE Aerospace, for being too, everybody fill in the word you want in there. So these are more studies of the light. Where would I put windows? And I want to step back for a moment and say that when I received the download of the Vossahedran, it looked like a molecule floating in space, like an orb spinning, a point cloud, for those who study physics, quantum physics. So I had to translate that into what you're looking at right now. So this is a more evolved model. What would it look like as a house? Now, I'm not suggesting 100% it has to be a traditional house. What you're looking at is an instrument, like a particle accelerator or a telescope. You're living inside a device that amplifies consciousness itself. So this is a 60-foot dome, 1,700 square foot concept. And when we look at the plan view of it, we look at a fractal that has several generations. It has the outer footprint, which is one shape, and it has the inner, then it has all those little triangles. If you were to try to count how many triangles are in this design, you'll get into the hundreds very quickly because they're all over the place. The proportion of the large triangle to the small is the square root of 3. That is Tesla's 3-phase circuit. This device is a house, and it's also a 3-phase earth battery Tesla technology. Here's a floor plan to show roughly what it would look like to break it up into sections, like your bedroom, your bathroom. And I'm balancing the idea of building a house versus an instrument, back and forth. More studies, more experiments, testing to see if furniture would work in here. This is a water collection system, the gutter system. The water actually comes from the surface of the dome, and it gets collected in these different cisterns. So this is the very first volume. In architecture, it's called a massing model, no detail, just to see what it would look like, a 2-story dome that is a lot smaller. That would be maybe 900 square feet. So the Vossahedron was born, a new kind of hedra to play with that can be a modular structure to build schools, healing clinics, restaurants, homes, entire cities. And I'm not suggesting that everything has to look like a 12-pointed star. I'm just saying my house is going to look like that. And the reason why I say that is because the first thing that people react is they go, this thing has too many angles. I would never be comfortable in that. I always say, how do you know? This represents the divine masculine of the flower of life. The divine feminine are the curved energies that we're going to see in a minute. So the first thing that's interesting is when you place this kind of shape on the ground, it is a chronometer that follows the sun in perfect proportions in 12 increments. How interesting, right? So it doesn't really matter where the sun is in the sky. This thing's always generating shade somewhere, except when the sun is at high noon. And that's when the sun comes through the center skylight. And that's part of the process. So here's a forward-looking vision board, put it out in the desert. I hadn't figured out the windows there yet, so just a placeholder. The Vossahedron is really a ship, like a clamshell design that has the top and the bottom. So here you're looking at the craft. Version 2 of this design is a magnetic levitation structure. That means your house would be a few inches off the sensors or a few feet, however high you want. Because one of the many design guidelines is for this device to block out matrix systems, meaning there will be no HARP, no internet, no cell phone radiations, no MK Ultra mind control can make it into this device. It was designed specifically to be a stealth structure to the matrix and a living structure to the earth. I'm going to stop right there and say, how many architects do you know that know anything in compilation of what I've just mentioned? This device is an acupressure point on the earth, meaning I build one and it starts pulsing a particular frequency in the earth so that the house is recognized as a living being like a cactus, so that the earth knows to surround it with life, force, rain, the right electromagnetic fields, the right combination of life around it, insects, everything. So here's the full grid system of my design. The translucent field around the structure plus the flower of life. So let's go into some of the design of the Vossahedran. I'm going to show some videos, and a little bit deeper, of this research. These images are going to go a little bit faster. Some of what you've seen, this is some of the imagery from the research. There are an archive of tens of thousands of images. When I look at this device, and I'm looking at it as a technology, consider that white filament that's outside this cactus as the interference pattern of its electromagnetic fields. Now, I'm saying electromagnetic. I really don't know what kind of energy I'm talking about just yet. These are designs from an artist, and for some reason, his name just escapes me. I believe he is Dutch, has a whole set of oracle cards. But we're looking at jumping back and forth between nature, energy, and more esoteric knowledge. How's that? Here I am meditating inside an echo dome in Chihuahua, Mexico. I'm going to share that a little bit more. Just kind of tuning your mind to the geometry that we're working with. This is a project by a female architect that is well known. Her beautiful prototypes are folding chrysanthemum
I don't mean to
architecture
interrupt you,
domes.
Fernando, because we don't see you advancing to the slides you're talking about, to the pictures. It's
One
just
moment.
fixed on Vossahedron. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, because for some reason it just wanted to show one window. I'm going to start again.
Mhm.
There we go. Can you see that?
Yes, we can see it now. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for catching that. So I was just showing some of the photography. You didn't miss much, by the way. It was just a few.
Good.
For me, designing this is a spiritual healing practice. I am healing my own life. I am rejuvenating my own body, and I'm restructuring the cellular makeup of my entire brain to be a biofuturist. Because if I'm going to be on Earth and do these projects, I need a different kind of mind. And if I'm going to consider being a long-lived being, what would it take to restructure your body to be a 900-year body? These are butterfly eggs. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but isn't this beautiful? The ridges that we're playing with at this tiny scale on top of a leaf. This is biomimicry of an artichoke. Who wouldn't want to live in something like this, right? These are notes from other researchers who looked deeply into cactus and seeing the thousands of details of how water reacts to this surface. How does light and heat, and how does sound, and how do cactus keep from animals invading them? Lots and lots of knowledge here. This image is the temple of rejuvenation from Lemuria, which was later replicated in Atlantis. This particular architect is in Carlsbad, California. This is a structure designed to heal your body just by walking by it. You don't have to take any medicine. This is a molecule from IBM. I believe it's a water molecule. You look at the axis of it, the six-sided hexagonal pattern, we're talking about a very particular language here. Then we have the idea of growing food inside sacred geometry structures. So here's another butterfly wing. Butterfly egg. So nature is talking to me, giving me all the instructions of how to do this. All right, we're going to pull up a few more images and we're going to start showing some cool videos. This is the very first 3D printed model that I created of the Vossahedran. It has two parts. The first one is just an extrusion of the 12-sided star straight up. And then there's the dome. So you can make a multi-story structure and then put the dome on top like a cap. This is back to that temple. One moment. This is my logo. The logo is the Vossahedron footprint. And on my business card, I have this imprinted. It has these curves to the right. Those are the proportions of the human body, like your fingers, your arms, the length of your legs, all of that, repeated 3 times. And then they go into the Vossahedron footprint like a comet, like a little string of energy. This geometry is the circuitry for the whole project. It gives you all of the rules of how to do all of the proportions. And it's also a healing technology. Your brain, just from looking at this, it has to restructure itself to try to understand it. These are different graphics that I've created. I'm going a little bit faster just because we're going to get to some really cool things. So here is a superimposition of a crop circle and the Vossahedron footprint. It is obvious that this is being downloaded from a very, very interesting source, right? Those of you who follow crop circles. This is vortex mathematics, vortex coil technology, free energy. These are the numbers I'm playing with, kind of like the firing order of the points on the Vossahedron. In what order does the energy, like an engine firing order on your cylinders? This image, I might have to blow up a little bit. Did you guys hear that? My structured water. Let me see if I can get this a little bit closer. Nope, it won't let, there it is. This is in Spanish. I got to do the English version, and it might be a little fuzzy for everybody. So I'm going to leave links and give them to Crystal so everybody can see all of this in high resolution. This is a description of a healing free energy molecule. If you were going to lay out the orbits and the atomic structure of healing, what would it look like? So on the outside, I have the natural elements of earth, fire, air, water, plasma, and consciousness. To me, those are the absolute energies that we cannot break down further. The next orbit below is the process of resonance, which is activation, waking up, intention, harmonizing, radiating, and visualizing. I gave it to you earlier. A little bit closer to the next orbit are the fields of energy: magnetism, light, sound, geometry, thought, and electricity itself. And then within it are healing modalities of touch, botanical, memory acknowledgement. You can also call it the Akashic inheritance, crystal energy, and art in itself. Artists are a particular kind of energy. Artistic expression is a type of electricity. And at the last inner triangles, they say Gaia, your body, DNA, galaxy, and sun. Those are the scale of physicality. You can go from a molecule to a human body, to a planet, to a solar system, to a galaxy. And then this is a codex. You would move these around and come up with different combinations. So that's as much as I'll explain for this right now. This is a whole field of study. Tesla describes lightning as his family. He says that he can recognize lightning from the sound of it or the feeling of it as a storm is beginning. He could hear lightning miles and miles away long before that thunder and lightning reached the town. I feel the same way about the different forces of energy. Just like people are born with dance ability or creative painting ability or can play basketball, one of my gifts is energetic intelligence. Most of you here I'm sure, have felt that you have a level of intelligence that is not even acknowledged in school systems. Technical ability, an intimate knowledge of physical forces. We don't need physics to explain how reality works. We don't need the math. This is a correlation of the Platonic solids, the angles, the color frequency of each Platonic solid. So when we look at pyramids on the far left, the tetrahedron, that's one generation of humanity. The height of that was the Egyptian period. We've evolved, hopefully. We've moved into a different humanity. I'm suggesting that we are ready for a new geometry in our architecture, or in the purity of building cities. So I've moved up to the icosahedron and the dodecahedron, and beyond that, the Vossahedron it would be like a sixth or seventh Platonic, not fully expressed. Because Platonic solids after the fifth one are energetic. And there are scientists around the world trying to design, what does it look like? The Vossahedron is a light ship. It is the molecule, and I'm only showing a slice of it, of a multidimensional object designed to travel to the Pleiadian system. If you guys remember Contact, the movie, the story, Carl Sagan, where she downloaded the instructions on how to build a spaceship, this is that kind of reality. This is looking at the interaction fields between the lines and the kind of energy they generate. Do you see these outer circles? That is the free energy interference pattern of this house. In the future, when you buy a house, you're going to ask the real estate agent to show you the cymatic print and the energetic print, holographic image of the house. And your body is going to tell you if that's the right place for you. Little description of the flower of life, seed of life. Here is where the square root of 3 is. It's in the Vesica Pisces intersection of 2 circles. This house is designed with this infinite number. And I wanted to share that in base 12 mathematics, you're looking at base 10. That's what we're taught in school. Base 12 is really what we're using for this architecture. In base 12, numbers like pi, like phi, the phi ratio, they are not floating points. All right. So that's a little bit of a download. And of course, this is also giving you the emotion of what I'm working with. Here's the basic form. This is the shape that's changing my life. 60-degree angles inwards, 90-degree angles outwards. The Vossahedron is an interface between the sun and the earth. It is a type of, for lack of a better term, it's a transistor device. So when you build 3 of these in a trinity, like your neighborhood, your house, your neighbor, and the other one, you have 3 devices. That's the optimum to create electricity and harvest water from the air. And every time the sun comes up, this house comes alive. Okay, so we're going to see some videos real quick. Before we do that, I just want to show you a little bit of the research lab experiments. This is a tabletop that has my 3D printed model of the Vossahedron. As we know, that's made out of plastic. And then there is a wooden Metatron cube design on top of it. That's that little brown framework that you see. And behind it is a big, tall glass container that has solarized crystal structured water in it. The Vossahedron is a device that structures water. What that means, first, it inverts the polarity from positive to negative. It ionizes the water, and the lattices in the H2O structures. Let me take a breath. The water changes its molecular structure when it is exposed to sunlight tuned with quartz crystal. Both of those together. It's a device. Here's a close-up of what I'm showing. It's a crystal grid with the healing molecule on it. I am practicing alchemy. At the same time, we're practicing physics. At the same time, we're practicing healing, all at once. I tune this geometry through a ceremony so that it integrates everything I've just told you. I imprint into my architecture the wisdom and knowledge so that when you live inside one of these, you are downloading all day long. My work, and this work, has been in 10 different countries, 12 project teams, over 100 experiments, from healing to free energy, to researching the earth, to biogeology. It goes on and on and on. Here's a picture of my plasma test where I condense plasma light, plasma energy from a Tesla plasma disk into a spherical lens so that it contained, so that it could be imprinted onto the structure itself. This is very early experiments. I don't have all the research that people could say, oh, well, can you publish the article? Can we do peer review? It's not quite ready there. But what I'm letting you know is that this 3D model generates electricity. Let me say that again. The plastic is generating electricity, and it is generating it at the center of the points exactly in the skylight. This model also generates a sound interference pattern. I hold my 3D model, it's like a dish, a little cup, and I put it on top of a little bowl of water, and I run an ultraviolet laser through it. These were experiments done in Baha. This is vibrating the water, creating a cymatic pattern. It is a micro. You have to look really closely. You can't see it in the picture. This is architecture that's generating its own fields. I think if I was to stop here, I got hit by a bus today, this is breakthrough science right now. It's real. Okay, so let's get some quick videos here. One of my mentors is Cosme Fabian. He is an eco-dome builder in Chihuahua, Mexico. I have the sound turned down on the video low. We are approaching a dome that was assembled in a bad neighborhood in Chihuahua, Mexico. Drug violence, poverty at some places. Let's get a little closer to it. This dome structure is made with eco-crete. It is a concrete with clay and dirt and other aggregate. This structure blocks 90% of the radiation coming from the cell phone tower right across the street. We brought our instruments and measured it. These structures are handmade in your neighborhood with your friends. So those who want to know more about these, research Cal Earth, the Cal Earth Institute in Hesperia, California. Cosme is one of the premier dome builders in the world at the moment. Next to him is Bernard Fiocchi, an expert in aquaponics. I'm sorry, he is not only an expert, but a healer and a grower. And in aquaponics, he taught me sacred geometry proportions in growing food with fish. We're going to move on to another video. Should have loaded these. We're going inside. This is one of the kids that lives inside this dome. His father was the victim of violent crimes in Chihuahua, and it was just his mom and 3 kids. So this dome was donated to his family. And he's a little shy, he's a little nervous, but he's explaining his device that he built on the right. That wooden box is a air-powered, it has an air fan inside. It's an air conditioner he was trying to invent that also keeps his notes. what I'm suggesting here is that by living inside sacred geometry, by living inside a natural home built by creative artists, these kids got to hang out with all the builders and the architects, and they get regular guests. So this family could easily go right into the whole drug violence thing. But suddenly they became inventors. They became interested in free energy and healing, and they want to build their own houses. So I have a question for the audience. What would happen if children graduating from school right now knew how to build their own homes, how to generate their own electricity, how to heal their own bodies, how to grow their own food, how to harvest their own water? We would have a new humanity in one generation. In our field research, with the gigahertz devices, they have different levels of sensitivity and different attachments for the different frequencies and bandwidth. Here we are measuring what is coming out of the cactus. So what do you think? Is electricity going into the cactus or going out of it? Is electricity or magnetism or other forces that we don't measure yet, are they at the base of the cactus, at the top, on the ridges? Has a map ever been made, a three-dimensional holographic map of the energetic fields of plants? You know, there's Kirlian photography, there's other ways, but this is breakthrough research right here. We took the same devices on the road to measure the interference when we were driving around. So first is like walking measurements, because before you build a sensitive instrument like a Vossahedran, we want to see what is present there in the surrounding area. So this isn't the video I wanted to pull up, but at the same time that we are doing our work, we're also doing workshops. So I just muted it. I'm showing that I could go into a 99-cent store and get all the parts I need to structure water. I mean, I challenge myself with it. What would I do if I went into Home Depot or Lowe's hardware store to buy all the parts I need to create a free energy device? I can't wait till Home Depot sponsors this kind of research. So I took a yard plastic container, the one they use to make like drinks, daiquiris or whatever, and filled it. And that's a drain with magnets, neodymium, all the way around. The only thing I couldn't find at Home Depot was the magnets. And then I assemble this. And then I add glass marbles to the mix. So the water goes through the marbles. It's a particular structuring filter, like an imploder, for those who know Dr. Dan Winter's work, one of my mentors. And we notice that water wants to naturally create a sine wave pattern as it flows through rivers and goes from a mountain and bounces off of rocks, and it has sand at the bottom of a creek bed. This is what our water should go through before it goes into our house. This container I'm showing has solarized water that I put outside, but there are crystals, white, milky quartz, Herkimer quartz, and clear quartz inside. And I also put sound on these. But for now, I'm just showing the actual filter that I made. So we've hacked, as several teams, free energy devices that make low voltage electricity from the earth battery, and water structuring and healing and so forth. At the same time, We're playing with high-tech, low-tech. This is a demonstration by Cosme, it's in Spanish, of the bathroom, the shower specifically. First, he's showing that there are 3 controllers for the water: the pressure, the heat, and cold water. That's a trinity right there, a 3-phase circuit for water. But the shower head, I'm trying to skip fast, real fast. Sorry. Let me back it up a little bit so I can. The water goes through a copper pipe that has a Fibonacci turn on it. I'm going to stop it right there. And that creates an imploder phase conjugate phenomena where the water is shot out. The pressure, you need a lot less pressure and you need a lot less water to take a shower. And the water is structured at the shower head. This is a free energy device. If you were to measure the water before and after it goes through this, it's 2 different kinds of water. What we're sharing here is low-tech solutions for everything. Sound kind of fun, right? One of the devices that I developed is called Sonic Reiki. This is my Sonic Reiki device in action. It is a multimodal healing technology with light, sound, crystal, energy, essential oils, thought intention programmed into it. She has a bowl on her stomach, but that's not part of my design. So what I'm doing here is I have a device in my hand that is a sound transducer. It is a magnetic coil with a polished crystal on the surface. And this is what I place sound into the body so it resonates your bones and your muscles and your ligaments, your whole bodies. And then I project with a laser projector a visual representation of the sound, because we're imprinting the light body. This is the understanding that the body has eyes everywhere. It's watching reality. If we're going to reprogram our DNA, and by the way, the DNA doesn't need reprogramming, it's our brain that needs more help. You can see that I project fractal imagery. And this is a platform for research. It has thousands of applications where you can record your own voice, play that back into your body, and give your body instructions on how to heal your cancer. I've tested this device in structured water with it. The Sonic Reiki, which is just the name I came up with, it should have been called something else at the time I was studying Reiki, is really the first platform before I built the design of the Vossahedran. So by the time I started the Vossahedran design, I was already into multimodal healing. That water has been imprinted, and couples can heal each other. Don't those fractals look beautiful, by the way? They're live. So when I'm on the road, we also do healing of the people who come and watch our workshops. And I look at my body, like right there, I was a lot chubbier. I was a little bit heavier. I was healing myself. Right now, I've regenerated my body 10 or 20 years back. I'm in better shape in my 50s than I was in my 30s. All of this technology, I'm a walking, living example of a free energy human that does not consume pharmaceuticals. I do not prescribe to the medical system, even the food system, as much as I can. I haven't stepped foot in a hospital in over 20 years. I'm so grateful for that. So here I'm doing healing demonstrations. People with fibromyalgia, Alzheimer's, early Parkinson's, diabetes, 100 different forms of cancer that I worked with, different kinds of tumors and so forth. This is what we need to be doing. You're looking at samples of the future. This is Atlantean, Pleiadian, Agarthan, Syrian technology that's being played out in front of us. This is, to me, the beginning, just the beginning of the life I would like to lead on this earth. The last video I'm going to show here, let me put on the sound. We're measuring, and for those who are interested in this equipment, there's gigahertz. We are resellers, and we map out Harman and Curry and ley lines with this. So we wanted to measure the ambient interference. And then we took the device in the car and approached one of the heavy, well, I wanted to go back for a minute. You notice we got a reading of 10, 11 here, 15 at the highest. But as we start driving toward an electric tower, it starts jumping. And when we drive under an electric heavy line, it jumps to 1,000, 1,500, 2,000. There are children living under these things. There are families in pockets of cancer. This is an emergency for me, what we're doing. You guys know when you hear the emergency signals, the cell phones goes off. Let me turn off screen sharing one moment. When we get that emergency signal, it goes, it's very annoying, and that tells you where you need to go for a shelter. I want to hear the sustainability signal, where it's just a beautiful, maybe a crystal bowl, boom, like that, Zen. It's time for healing as an emergency. All right, so we're coming up on our first hour. How's everybody feeling?
Wow. Wow, it's amazing, Fernando. Thank you so much for your very, very illustrative presentation. Now I would like to pass the microphone over to the co-chair first to open it for to the floor for question and answers.
Thank you, Crystal. Fernando, I'm going to start off with a few questions of my own and then turn it over to the rest of the crowd. Your dome structure, part of the work that I did, gosh, it must be 14 years ago, was trying to design square spaces like furniture inside a geodesic dome of about 86 feet in diameter. And the problem that we ran into was our furniture is cubes inside of something that is almost, that's a round. And when you get into the design, the cross-section of your design, you start to see that there is actually squares that you could add into your structure as walls or temporary walls to accommodate furniture, which is quite interesting. So we end up with squares inside of squares, and if you look at it, it actually has 6 squares inside it in different orientations. And in your anyway, your dome shape.
Ha ha.
That probably took you, it's like, okay, how do we get this spoken out? The other thing that came to mind when I first saw your presentation here a few years ago was that not only does it show up in cactus, it also shows up in squash. And you could take a squash or a pumpkin and cut it in half horizontally, not vertically, but horizontally, and it would be that shape once again. We take a look at things like avocados, seeds itself, and you have that outer membrane, the inner flesh area, and then the seed is on the inside. But it isn't that flesh that is between the skin and the seed that is the nourishment for the avocado. No, that's the feeding of the animals or the birds to move the seeds. The food for the tree is actually inside its seed. So you're bringing together quite a few different things in your structures. And the other comment that I was thinking of real quick when you were talking about your lights and stuff on the human body, an experiment that people can do at night is to place their hands in a darkened room in a meditative state, place your hands away from your body and see if you can track the shadows around your body. Now, normally we see at a very narrow vision where our eyes come out. That's why our glasses aren't very big. But when you do the experiment, you realize that you can see the shadows of your hands clear back at your ears. And if you do it further, you can actually see the shadows behind you. And so this is where your light imprinting becomes very important. I think that's my comments. I'm going to open up the floor. Or you want to read? Go ahead.
I did want to respond to that a little bit. So thank you for that. I'm going to do a quick screen share to show you a little bit of the furniture that is hexagonal and modular. This is the Vossahedran. Let me get to that. This that I'm showing is the plan view of different kinds of furniture. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. This is a shelving system made out of hexagons. These are different modular chairs, like one 3-foot diameter hexagon with a foam pad on top can be combined to make beds and couches, and you can put a backrest. This is still a very rough massing model, so it's low detail, but you can make desks and chairs that can be stuck inside any of those angles. So I already designed the full kitchen, the dining room table of the Vossahedran, which I'll show you in a minute, that disassembles because those triangles end up being really tall closets where I put all the technology, water filters and so forth. And also all the furniture can be put away in the walls so you can have free floor space available. You know, the way we have our homes today, the furniture just takes up way too much space for its use. So all this furniture is collapsible, easy to build. Like with plywood and foam, you can build this whole system. So one step at a time there. The second thing that you mentioned regarding the cactus and the wedges and the color and the skin, one of the important things that I learned is the green temperature of the cactus, the green shade, the specific color of it is the perfect filter for the sun, so that in the hottest times of the year, that green keeps the cactus cool inside. And in the winter, it keeps the cactus warm. A cactus can handle being frozen solid and defrosted and still survive. So that told me that we should be looking at green concrete, and I've already designed and built, I already mixed green concrete using a tinting powder in the concrete so that the walls are green through and through. I think this in itself is a major, major breakthrough in architecture because we don't see white, flat walls in nature. We don't see white, flat surfaces. All right, thank you.
Yes, and remember that the green that you see is the reflective color, not the absorbed color.
That's what, you're right. That's what nature doesn't want in there. Now, I haven't had time, but intuitively I know there is an electrochemical filter. It's a resistor, the green color, because chemically the photosynthetic process of chlorophyll has so much to do with life. So yes, there's so many beautiful hints there.
Going to open it up to the floor. Does somebody have a question for Fernando? Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question.
Fernando, you had you said anything about the female aspect also, the round and so on. Could you expand on that?
Yes. Whenever we draw sacred geometry, we do either straight lines or curves. And the straight lines seem to be the structure, like the trusses, the support structure inside the architecture. And the curves themselves are the interface between your building and nature, the outside world. So one of the things that I've learned in working with consciousness as a field, like the field around your body, the field around plants, is that it shapes itself. And I hate to say it's a separate thing. To me, the field of energy around your body is your body. The physical part is just the truss system of the energetic fifth, sixth dimensional being that we are. So that whenever you put the geometry, like you build a pyramid and just put it on the ground, all of a sudden the atmosphere around that shape changes. All of a sudden the earth responds differently to it. And what it comes down to is seeding life. When you create a geometry like a cube, make it out of wood or whatever, it is the birth. And the Mother Earth, Mother Gaia, surrounds it to nurture it. That's the divine feminine. And I did my best to give it a shape. It looks like those fields of energy. And I'm going to put a link right now to this portfolio that you can look at while we're talking, everybody, of pictures. Okay, so that divine feminine is the energetic womb that I'm wanting to recreate, that shields you from interference, that goes as far as creating synchronicity in your life. Like when I started working on the Vossahedran and I worked on the geometry and I 3D printed the model, I took that model with me. It changes people's brain when they look at it, they touch it, they see that it's real. So that's to me the divine feminine at work.
Yes, I quite agree with you.
You know, when I worked with Professor John Searle at the Searle Effect Generator, his laboratory, he taught us that the Searle Effect Generator, the SEG, has two effects. One is the electric effect that generates a coherent field. Two is the effect that it does in your brain, in your body, in your heart. When you know that there's a free energy device, it's a very emotional reaction. Those two are very important to me. When someone first looks at my Vossahedran or stands next to the prototype we're building this summer, it's going to make people cry because healing is here. The future has arrived. That's the divine feminine. Thank you for that.
Yes, Fernando, along those same lines, we take a look at the feminine energies on this one. Has any of your devices that you've used to measure the energy fields, or your thoughts on this, is there a way of picking up the signal? Is it a unidirectional field? Is it a bidirectional field? I'm going to let you riff on that just a little bit.
Thank you. No, you did good. I am not going forward with this project as a traditional scientist, meaning I'm going to get all my instruments out and measure what I can. This is not something that can be abstracted synthetically from nature, meaning you will not understand what's going on if you try to measure the temperature of it or try to put a probe on it, because it is a morphogenic field that is present. It is life force. So when you hug your mother, where would you put the instruments to measure that interaction? I mean, it's a simple question, but it is the core of what we're doing. I am taking a more qualitative approach to this entire project. I'm being guided by intuition. I'm using my inner scientific consciousness sense to guide me through the physics of it. I don't need any instrument. And I'm not saying this to you as an attack. I'm just sharing that I don't feel the need for any measurements other than how I feel when I am next to my project. How does it change the way I live? Is it really healing me? Is it really bringing down my blood pressure, my heart rate? Is it changing my metabolism? Because the electricity that is generated by this device, I would say more it's an entity, like a mountain. It's a coherent, softer kind of electricity that will only power appliances that run on sound and light, not on electricity. So the walls don't have conduits. There's no electric cables running through this structure. There's not even plumbing pipes running through the building. This is the kind of electricity where you put an LED bulb next to the wall and it will light it, because the LED has to reach the resonant frequency of the structure. Electricity invites coherence in this device because it's clean with the intention of healing. Do you think that there are engineers at General Electric making light bulbs with the intention of healing imprinted in the light bulbs? Probably not. So that device wouldn't work as well in the Vossahedran. You're trying to run a steam engine from a light ship. So that's something for the noodle to play with.
You bet. And one of the things that we found with working with the plasma fields and stuff with this group is that it isn't unidirectional, meaning that it is a two-way street in the line of what's being expanded and coming back. And each one interacts with the other. And so that your instruments do affect the field because they become part of the field. They inside of it. So it's an interesting field.
It's inner directional. It is a quantum. In order for us to have quantum energy, you have to have a quantum source that is not in this dimension. It's like describing the field of love. It is a presence that is there, and the source of it is not here, in a way. It can't, and we get in trouble with this linear language. English is so inadequate to describe this. Do we agree?
Yes, we do. Crystal, do you have a question?
Would probably be closer to a good language to describe what we're doing.
Yeah, well, we are running out of time, so we will have to move on a bit quicker. I actually do have some comments here. Fernando, when you're talking about the free energy molecule, right? I was reading your site, and I was watching how you do the angles of your Vossahedran, and you were describing that there is an energy vortex that is moving in between the sides of the Vossahedran. And I was imagining that this would then develop a like a whirlpool of energy that goes up to the top, and then you would then be able to yield the or produce or harvest the free energy to be able to light up the building inside. Supposing that you don't even have to have electricity to light up. And I was also, before you answer, I was also reading about the huge big complex that was discovered in Antarctica. And there was this scientist who refused to leave because he wanted to study why is this huge big building complex in Antarctica lights itself lit, and there is an ambient light there everywhere in building. There's no electric cables, no nothing. So perhaps that's an element there that you need to look up and to study as well, that could actually be relevant to your free energy molecule that could light up as well. And you were talking about giving warmth, right? In the winter it warms up, in the summer it cools down. That is really amazing, and naturally as well, without any physical device that we are trying to build and give the people to power up the house and all that. Oh, it's so amazing. It's so interesting.
Thank you. Some of the vocabulary that helps is, first, none of this is a linear process. There is no beginning or end that you can measure to the way heat and cold. The better way to describe this shape, it is a self-organizing system that by itself, it has its own Merkaba field. It has its own field of intelligence. And your body has its own Merkaba field that roughly is about 15 feet in diameter, about, in radius. So it's like 30 feet, like 10 meters in diameter. So when you walk into one of these structures, the field of that structure is combined with the field of your body, and it becomes a protection barrier to your Merkaba field. This is one of the first few buildings that I know of designed to contain your light body. What happens here is that it's like you've plugged in your computer to an internet that it has infinite bandwidth. Suddenly you're receiving inside this dome, when you block out the matrix, you can start practicing your mental telepathy abilities by meditating in this neutral space. It's not necessarily that inside the Vossahedron there's a lot of energy. It's the absence. It's an energetic vacuum that lacks the matrix. That's how you recognize, oh, I can actually hear my heartbeat and blood pressure. I can actually meditate and feel my DNA communicating with me. I can feel my cells giving me chills when I'm in a cave. This is, we're going to have to develop a lot of new vocabulary to describe what it means to step into a temple of rejuvenation. And what does it mean to heal? We don't have a good definition of the word healing, and we don't have a good definition of the word energy right now. We are corrupt with Newtonian physics. We are stuck in a theory of relativity. And to me, that is so limited understanding of light and electricity. So how about if we can, I don't want to say make or manufacture, but we can inspire water from the atmosphere in zero humidity environments through electricity. This dome, the Vossahedron, can generate an electric signal like a pulse that is received by the surrounding desert. Let's say you're in Death Valley or the Sahara, and that electricity initiates a sequence of plasma, because water in the desert is in plasma electric state. It doesn't have to come from the ocean or so forth. You can have zero precipitation on Earth and create water with electricity. That's one of the many principles that have come out of this research. How beautiful, because when a plant blooms, it puts out a little micro piezoelectric pulse, and the atmosphere receives that and said it's time to rain on that one little flower. But that field of flowers generates a quantum field, and a forest generates a bigger one, and a continent generates a bigger one. We're just missing in our science the understanding of fractal holographic fields of plasma. But we're getting there.
We are talking about consciousness, aren't we? We are talking about communicating with consciousness. Everything has consciousness. Even
I want to clarify one more time what I just said in a short way.
Sure.
You can have a house that makes its own water by putting out sound. Means you can play music in your house and make it rain on it, if it's the house that's tuned to the right frequency. There's not. We've just solved a huge problem there. Houses that make water anywhere on Earth, no matter how dry the desert is.
Oh, I wish Don Estes is in a conversation here with us. Because
we're going to get him on board. I want to definitely have a talk with him.
Yeah, definitely. We must have a forum where we bring all these special brains together, then we can talk about
I want to clarify that our metaphor right now is free energy is a generator that you have to assemble with magnets. No. Free energy is the conscious connection to the energy that's already there. It'll tell you how you can bring it into your life like a friend.
Wonderful.
You can create electricity without magnets or crystals, but you can make really great electricity with crystals and magnets working together. Otis Carr's flying spacecraft ran on magnets and crystals that didn't move. There were no moving parts.
Well,
Solid state.
I know where you're coming from.
Yeah. And by the way, this vocabulary is for our audience.
Sure.
You know, like they want to say, well, where's your free energy device? They're waiting for me to pull out some kind of box that puts out electricity. And this is not that thing. The free energy in this home is the home itself. You can't steal it. People can't come and take your free energy device. They have to take the house with it. And when you disconnect a Vossahedron from the ground, it stops working. It has to be touching the earth.
Mm.
Beautiful,
So
no?
there again, I'm trying to connect the dots and the link. Okay, I think
Yeah.
if we are to look a little bit further in the future, we're talking about the connection in consciousness. Okay, so I know you would like to put it out to the public and the listeners to
Yeah.
go within and meditate, and this will be the key once we have an awakening process, the pineal gland, and we'll be able to then communicate with nature, with everything that has consciousness, like Dr.
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 Emoto,
Masaru Emoto's work, the water crystals, right?
did you see?
It
I showed
has,
an image of a woman with
we
one
saw,
of his crystals on her forehead. That is, I am giving honor to one of my mentors.
wonderful. Yeah, and water has intelligence. Everything has intelligence. There will come a time when we, the Homo sapien, will be able to open up the junk DNA and all that and communicate with everything. And so this light body will then be switched on, and we'll say in your Vossahedran, let there be light, and it will be switched on. And that
Right.
will,
And
yeah.
imagine a future when you want to choose what geometry you want to live. You'll be able to go into a holographic catalog and say, oh, that shape like a crop circle is attractive to me. Then the 3D printer will be able to print and custom mix the material your house is printed. Like the Vossahedran is not only made out of natural elements like volcanic ash, a little bit of limestone, clay. It also has powdered quartz, but you can also put powdered silica or other crystals, and it has non-organic matter, which is an orgonite device. And you can mix and match your recipe to you. You can say, I want a house tuned for creativity. I can have parts of the house made for sexual and sensual sacred living. Your kitchen has technology to make the food more nutritious. This is a whole different way of playing with building materials, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the super soldiers, James, your people would had been talking about how they communicate with their crafts to, like Penny Bradley was talking about, how a thought would just be able to give commands to pilot the craft to whichever direction she wants to, right? So, James, would you like to come and add in a little comment, and then we go around the table a little bit, and then we close this meeting and the first session, and we go second one. James? Okay. James, you are being unmuted. I mean, in the Secret Space program, they have this connection of consciousness kind of giving commands and instructions to make things work. But then it's a technology, but here you're talking about connection with nature. Okay, James not coming on. Right. And is there any, sorry, somebody is going to speak? I could hear. Is there anybody here with an impertinent question for Fernando?
And I just posted 2 links. One is my YouTube channel with a collection of workshops and advanced material, and also a portfolio of all the Vossahedran design for everybody to have fun with.
Right.
What's up, James?
James coming on now.
Hi. Yeah. So I like your design. The only thing I was just looking at is just it seems like it uses a lot of material. And for someone who's looking at it, trying to say, I mean, I'm sure the Vossahedran house is probably not very expensive to build in the first place, but for someone who wants to save money on materials, it seems like it uses a lot. But
well, here's where it gets interesting. The material is mostly air, because it is an air foam, and the word I don't like to use, but it's what we got, is concrete. It's a biopolymer. It's a plant-based foaming agent with clay. So it's mostly air. So you arrive at your property, you mix the clay with a plant-based foaming agent, and you fill them. It's a mold. So the walls are 6 inches thick and a foot thick at the points, but it's a foamed biopolymer, which you can hold up. It'll be like a hard brick made out of foam, but it's all natural organic. So no, it doesn't use the kind of volume of materials that an earth dome or an earth ship or a Cal Earth dome would use. And the furniture inside is very minimal. This is a home for people who are not into having all kinds of clutter. because the shape of the house gives you the closets. It makes it easy to build countertops for your kitchen. You don't need to go to Home Depot for this house at all.
I
But
would
thank
like
you
to
for
have
that
some,
point.
yeah, but I like to have some windows on the side. Can that be designed into it?
Well, like I mentioned, the images that I showed are not the full design. They're the
Okay.
massing
Fine
model.
then.
So yes, there's in the Vossahedron, there's 24 big windows all the way around. And if you go into that portfolio link I just showed you, you'll see the one with all the windows.
Right. Is there anybody
What?
else who wanted to say anything to Fernando or comment? Well,
Did you guys like what you saw?
Chris
Yes, we
Chadwick,
did.
Chris Chadwick say,
Mhm.
"Oh my God, awesome presentation, Chris! Come on, then."
You know, most of the time when I'm working with groups and everybody's like so excited, everybody here is just like, what's up? You know, I work with healers, I work with performing artists and musicians, but scientists are the most like tone, like, what happened, guys? We're healers. we're the geniuses of this world.
One
Can
of
I
the
ask a
interesting things when you talk about your aircrete or your basically expanded concrete, and they've used several different processes from styrofoam to now basically air bubble type stuff, mixing in soap bubbles into the concrete makes it stronger and lighter. It gives you that look of almost a egg bone of birds in structure. We mix in
Bingo, give
another
this guy some prizes for hitting it. Yes.
Well, the fun part is if you mix in a product that's called hemp into it, a finely ground hemp, and now you've got a structure that increases the strength of it. So we don't have the cracking and the deterioration that we find in standard concrete construction. The hemp is an organic product, but when combined with the cement, it fossilizes the wood fiber, the plant fiber into it. And so you have an even stronger. So it's a very fractal making piece of a material. And so I'm really pushing here in the United States for the legalization of research and development of the hempcrete.
It really
with
is
some of
designed
this new stuff. Yeah.
as a hemp house. It's green on purpose. And if you look at the plan view, which is the top view of the 12-sided star, it is a fractal hemp plant. And there's no mistake about that. It is made from organic fractal geometry that matches perfectly with, and most people should know that the hemp plant, the genetics came from Andromeda. This was genetics that were brought.
Right, we are coming to almost 2 hours now.
Oh my gosh.
I've given I've given you the chance.
What you showing, Bo?
See, when we have a lot of healers here.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah. The finger is pointing on one bone in the left hand.
I see it.
Yeah. And now I'm going, it's called the bone
That's a 60-degree
leg.
angle, isn't it?
I don't know. But what I want to show you, this is my son's hand.
Oh no.
And you can see on the same bone that is broken from a snowboard accident in January 1 year ago.
Oh.
And I am a healer and I can do a lot of things by distance, but I have never done a bone before. And I was asking the universe if I can fix it, and I had something about 5 or at least 8 days. It will be fixed, but I have never done it before. I have no confidence about this. I need some assistance if someone can tell me.
Bo, I just gave you my email, and I'm also available on Facebook. It's easy to get to me. I do have some bone regenerating frequencies, and I want to show you how to put that sound into his hand to start regenerating new bone and new tissue.
Yeah.
So make sure you send me an email.
We was to the hospital in Stockholm, Uppsala actually, and we told that it's a very hard operation, and we need to take bone from his hips, and he need to be in the hospital for 4 days.
Wow.
Or otherwise we can take the bone from here, some part here.
What we want to do is surround the fracture with stem cells and you got to call those stem cells with sound to go to concentrate on that area. So make sure you send me an email. We can have a call just on this, and I'll give you some suggestions, because I've regenerated several people's fractures. And you're going to laugh, but I lost a tooth recently, and I want to regrow a tooth. Right here, I'm missing. So I'm teaching my system to have a brand new, because I got to put stem cells there to regrow a tooth. I don't want to get an implant.
Make sure you take some horsetail.
Oh, thank you for that, James.
You know, when the doctors have problem with the patients, they used to call me, and I fixed it from my home. So
and we can mix the frequencies with your son's favorite music, so he can listen to it at the same time heal.
Very nice. I fixed everything, but I have never done a bone before. I'm very interested to get.
You've got Fernando's email address in the chat, so I would like all of you to save the chat so you can communicate with each other, and you'll be able to see the links that Fernando has pasted on the chat room. Okay, just hover your mouse over more, and then it will let you know which one to click to save. Just save chat. Just click on save chat, and it's saved in your disk drive. Okay, right. So is there any other, because I don't think we have time to have one last question even. So
I think you need to wrap this up, Crystal.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up right now. Okay, so there being no other business, this first session of the 61st FESIG meeting is now adjourned to the second session. Thank you, Fernando, for such a lovely, wonderful, awesome presentation. That is so
just the last thing I wanted to mention is that we're building a full-scale prototype this summer of the Vossahedran. So stay tuned.
Yeah, and don't you think that we are not fascinated?
I know you are.
We are just silenced into, like, you know, we're stunned, we're in awe with your presentation.
I am so happy that I got to talk to everybody here. I'm so honored by this group.
We are so honored to have you here doing your presentation here and sharing so much of the future with us. Yeah. And there being no other business, now this is adjourned to the next session. So stay here, don't go away. We're just going to take a little break. We'll stop the recording now, and then we are going to take a few minutes rest and move on to the second session. Thank you. Namaste. Namaskar. In Lakash.